Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to cover a cartridge that doesn't have a lot of fanfare. In fact, you could say it's kind of an obscure cartridge. Today we're going to cover the 240 Weatherby Magnum. We're going to look at the history, we're going to look at the ballistics, we're going to find out why this cartridge isn't so popular. Let's get into it. The 240 Weatherby Magnum was introduced in 1968 by Roy Weatherby. So it's kind of a newer Weatherby cartridge, kind of. And Roy was really inspired by the 244 H&H Magnum. Quick history on the 244 H&H Magnum. It was created, Wildcat, in 1955 by a British man by the name of David Lloyd, who was friends with Roy Weatherby. And the 244 H&H Magnum is a bit of a ridiculous cartridge. Think of it as almost like a neck down 300 Win Mag to 6mm. It was crazy fast, and I think that's what inspired Roy to make his 240 Weatherby. Now, the 240 Weatherby Magnum is pretty unique because, to my best of knowledge, there really isn't a parent case for it. The closest thing you could think of is really just a 30-06. Hornady does make this drawing the same size as what the case would be, and so as you can see, they're very close to being the exact same. The 30-06 case is a tad bit wider, but they're just about the same length and almost the same width. Difference, obviously, there's a belt on the 240 Weatherby. With it not having a parent case, it can make some reloaders a little frustrated because you can't take any existing other cartridge and say fire form it or neck it up or down. So it is very unique and quite interesting. For the performance, I'm going to switch over to the Nosler book. It has, I think, a little bit more reliable data. First up, let's look at the 55 grain. Yeah, it can shoot 55 grains, and whoo, it's going 4,100 feet per second. So yeah, this thing is a powerhouse. Now let's get up to the bullet weight that I really want to compare it to today with other cartridges. And let's see here. Almost 3,500 feet per second. And in other reloading manuals like Barnes, you can get over 3,500. Barnes says 3,550. So this thing is absolutely moving. And despite its poor BC, even the AccuBond is 0.376, it's still a really flat shooting cartridge, which I'll show you. And lastly, you can shoot 100 grain bullets, just like a 243, and it's mid 3,300 feet per second. So on average, you're going to be about 200 feet per second faster than a 243 Winchester. Now let's just look at how the 240 Weatherby does downrange. Again, I'm going to be using a 90 grain AccuBond. And while Nosler says you can get 3480 something, Barnes says you can get 3550. So I'm going to go kind of right in between. 3,525 feet per second. Check out that energy. That's just a tad bit more than a 6.5 Creedmoor. Pretty awesome with how such a small bullet. Again, it's not very efficient, but it's fast. Then the recoil. This thing's not going to kick a lot. So that's pretty awesome. This kicks less than a 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, out to ethical hunting distances, I'm just looking at 300 yards. Bullets going 2,727 feet per second. You almost have 1,500 foot-pounds at 300 yards. Pretty awesome. This thing is also pretty darn flat shooting. This is only 7.5 inches of drop at 300. At 400, again, you're getting 1,200 foot-pounds. It's not bad, especially in a 6mm. And then only 18 inches of drop. This thing's flatter shooting than the very speedy 25-06 Remington. So this thing does have some nice qualities to it. It's fast and flat and gives you pretty good energy for how tiny the bullet is. So I just wanted to show you how it compares to the competition. Let's first start with the very popular 243 Winchester. And we're going to use AccuBond bullets and a 90 grain and you can hand load that to 3250, maybe a little more. And then your energy at 300 yards, a very respectable 1,247 foot-pounds. It's not too bad. The 240 Weatherby, it's getting 3,525 feet per second. Energy, it's a little over 200 more foot-pounds. So it's a step up from 243, but not a huge gain, I would say. And then let's go to some different calibers that it might compete with. The 25-06 Remington, shooting a 110 grain AccuBond at 3,250 feet per second. And your energy at 300 yards is not too much more, a little over 100 more foot-pounds, around maybe 120 foot-pounds. So not too terrible. You guys didn't think I forgot about the 6mm Creedmoor now. So the 6mm Creedmoor, well, if you load it with the 90 grain AccuBond, it's going to give the same velocities as a 243, which will have the same energy of mid 1,200 foot-pounds. But if you're going to get a 6mm Creedmoor, you're not going to be shooting low BC bullets. So with a 103 grain ELDX, your velocity 3,150 feet per second, and suddenly your energy is just a little bit more than a 240 Weatherby, about 50 more foot-pounds or so. Now the problem I have with this is you're basically shooting a glorified target bullet. I'm sorry, the ELDX is not much of a hunting round. One thing that I find interesting is that you can actually get the 240 Weatherby in a Vanguard. So that makes it one of, I believe, 4 of the Weatherby cartridges you can get. So this 240 Weatherby, 257, 65300, and the 300 Weatherby. I find it kind of odd that they offer the 240 Weatherby. I don't know, maybe they sell more than I thought. Another thing that I didn't realize beforehand is that this Weatherby cartridge only comes with a 24-inch barrel. Usually their Weatherby cartridges are going to be coming with a 26-inch barrel to maximize the velocity. So maybe they didn't need the 26-inch to get the velocities they wanted. So why has this cartridge been pretty obscure, or, well, I don't want to call it a failed cartridge. It definitely has its fans, but it's a good one. But I think, well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, the 243 Winchester has dominated the 6mm market, and even the 6mm Creedmoor, it's still not selling as well as the 243 Winchester. It's pretty crazy how much people love the 243 Winchester, and for good reason. It's a lot more efficient than the 240 Weatherby, and it's only 200 feet per second slower. The second reason I think the 240 Weatherby just isn't as popular is because right above it is a much more powerful and, well, they shoot about the same size bullets, and this one shoots a lot faster. So if you're not sure what this is the 257 Weatherby. And you can shoot a 100 grain bullet at, well, over 3,600 feet per second. Now the 240 Weatherby, it might get 3,400 feet per second with a 100 grain bullet. So pretty big difference. And so the 257 is a lot more versatile. Yes, there's a little bit more recoil to it. I don't know. I think most people are going to pick a 257 over a 240. Let me know what you think of this cartridge. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.